All right, so today we're talking about the, this is a really weird camera. It is the Tomiyama Art Panorama 170. It's a low-price copy of either the Linhof 617 or the Fuji 617. Panorama 120 film camera, made from the 1980s, I think, until 2003, I believe, from what little information I could find about it. It is absolutely bare bones, but fun to shoot with, even though it's a bit on the strange side and a bit on the. You have to really be careful with your technique when you're shooting a camera like this, because any little mistake and you end up with totally useless files, totally useless photographs. So yeah, so like I say, the format is 6 by 17 centimeters, which means that the film is 17 centimeters wide, 6 centimeters high, and you get a grand total of 4 frames per 120 roll. So to talk about the camera, it has a Super Angulon f8 90mm large format lens, which will cover the 17 centimeter wide. The image circle is large enough to cover the 17 centimeter wide format. Ideally, it has a center filter, which means that the lens has fall off at the corners just because, just the way it works, and the center filter will accommodate for that. Unfortunately, it is around somewhere, apparently, in a box. In the meantime, we can just, fix the vignetting in post if we have to. It's, yeah, so like I said, it has the 90mm lens. It actually does have focus, so you can focus the camera. So aside from just having it on infinity, which is, generally speaking, where it lives, you have an opportunity to, if you can see this here, this is a ground glass, and before you load the film, you can pop the back off the camera, and you can drop the ground glass and focus on pretty much anything you want. The drawback is that once you're focused, you have to load the camera, and you don't get to focus again because, of course, the film's in the way. It has a viewfinder, external view finder that just gives you a 90mm field of view. It's just that simple, f8 to f64. It has a number of bubble levels, which are essential because the last thing you want to do is have your horizon crooked in a frame like this, because fixing it means losing a lot of frame. So it must be absolutely horizontal if possible. Right, so in order to use the ground glass properly, the first step is to open the lens. So set it to f8, wide open, and open, make sure it's open. There it is. And so now what we do is we pop the back off, both sides, and put that down somewhere. And actually, I'll show you this. The ground glass slides out of the back here. And the ground glass does not have any clips or anything on it. So when it goes in, shiny side towards you, it goes in. For goodness sake, you have to hold it in place, otherwise it'll just fall out. And then with a loop and the focus knob at the front, you give it a little twist, and lo and behold, it's in focus, just like that. And then, of course, you very carefully remove the ground glass. And then you have to load, well, put the ground glass back into the back so you don't drop it. And then you have to load the film. Now this, unfortunately, is a challenge. So you've got your roll of 120 film. This is 400 VC out of my freezer, probably from 2005 or something like that. Take off the band entirely, very important. Now, the way that it works is that this is where the film goes, and this is where the film goes to, but it's very difficult to get the leader started without exposing the first little bit of film, because you've got so much to bring it out. So what I find I do is I take out my take-up spool, like that. I load the leader into the take-up spool, and remembering which way it twists, get it on there so it's nice and tight, a little tiny bit, and then that guy goes in there. This guy goes across, and you can see that's where you're supposed to, that's as far as you're supposed to take the film out. It's a bit of a challenge to cram it in there. And oh, there we go. Hey, come back. Okay, and it should be tight now. Back goes on, clipping into both clips on both sides, because there's no lever or anything like that. And then you open the window so you can actually see there's a little window in there, and then you rotate this, squeaking away, until you get to frame number 3. What? Hang on. Ah, drat. You gotta close the lens. Don't forget, close the lens. I think I'm probably safe. So we go number 1, number 2, number 3, and we're ready to shoot. Light meter reading here, f22 at an 1/8. All right, f22 at an 1/8. 1/8 at f22. Cock the lens and put that down just for a sec. There we go. All right, ready for the next exposure. F22 at an 1/8. Oops. Make sure we're horizontal. So I went up to Whistler, which is a ski town not too far from Vancouver, and on a very, very gray and wet morning, I went to a lake and took a few photos of rainy water, as well as actually managed to grab my kids and headed over to the mountains nearby and took some photographs in the forest on a sunny day, which was kind of interesting. So now we're here with the old boat anchor Imicon scanner and an ancient power book that I managed to get on Craigslist, because it's the only computer that will run the software that will work with this thing. And also I just want to talk about the fact that just want to give a little illustration in terms of the size of the film we're working with. That little hole there is a 35mm frame. That is a medium format 6x7cm frame. And this is your 6x17. We have our negative here, one of 4 that we got on that roll of film, as you recall. It is a bit of a challenge to load these holders because, of course, the film is so long that it gets off track pretty quickly. So I find a white piece of paper works rather well in terms of lining it up. Get it where you want it, something like that. There we go. And a quick dust of air to get rid of most of the surface dust that shows up and into the scanner. All right, now this is just a preview. This is not the scan. The scan takes, with this scanner, the scan takes a better part of about half an hour. One of the things that you find about, about shooting any kind of film, but certainly about shooting large format film, is that the process requires incredible attention to detail. I mean, you know, it's funny, if you only have 4 frames per roll, then invariably, you know, I find that I am very careful what I shoot. But I do find that when you get to this situation now, when we're scanning them in, you know, I look at the images and I think, wow, that looks great. And one of the reasons why is because of the discipline and the care that you have to take in order to get something on the film. And you know, there's no previews, there's no autofocus, there's no nothing. I mean, you are on your own with you know, just being able to make sure that you've got it all right from the get-go. All right, so on the screen here we have our, well, it's not quite a raw scan. I brought it into the Imicon software and produced a fairly flat scan, or pardon me, a very flat TIFF. A couple things that you'll notice right away. First of all, yeah, it's a little underexposed. I don't know, maybe it was having a rough day, maybe it was darker than I thought, not exactly sure. So, so if you're wondering why you know, the shadows are all totally blocked up, it's because there's no detail there. It's because I kind of didn't nail my exposure. If you're wondering why it's so blue, the answer is because that's actually kind of how it looked. It was sort of early morning in early October. This is actually just at sunrise. And you'll see there and there on the screen, those are little tiny water droplets on the lens. Shooting at f32 brings that into, you know, kind of clear focus. What I do is I actually throw a really, really heavy contrasty layer on. And the reason why I do that is so that I can see what's going on. So we go into 100%, and we go up to our corner, top left corner, which is about here. And then with the rulers on in Photoshop, you can drag a guide so you know where you're going.
and then you go into your, oops, there we go, go into your clone tool, not clone tool, what is this? Yeah, spot healing brush tool, your spot healing brush tool, and you go through and you retouch out the dust, all back to 100%. Even though I have a really big curves layer, you can see that there's huge fall off on the sky on the other side, and I actually rather like that myself, and so I'm going to keep it. But one of the things you can get for these cameras is a center filter that has a graduated neutral density, so that it takes care of the edges of the sky. The other thing we can do is we can actually do a mask in Photoshop, and we can make sure that we take care of that, so that we don't end up in a situation where you have it so strikingly, if that's what you don't want. So you can see there's still lots of dust to go. Where's our line? There it is there. And so anyway, you get the idea. You just sort of work your way through and make sure that you get all the dust taken care of. All right, so at the end of the day, what do I think of the camera? Well, it's a lot of fun to use. I mean, it's a real re-education in making sure everything's just right before you start shooting. So that's, from that point of view, it's actually a lot of fun. And the images with that super angulon lens are amazing. To be able to scan a massive piece of film, print it out, and that kind of stuff is interesting. But on the other hand, there's a lot of drawbacks. I mean, it really only works with that 90mm lens. You only get 4 frames per roll. It's big, it's heavy, it has no ergonomics whatsoever. I can't imagine shooting handheld ever with that thing. But would I buy one? Probably not. This is the kind of camera that you're way better off borrowing from a friend, or or renting. Definitely worth the exercise. You can achieve the same view with a panning head and your digital camera and stitching things together, but it's not quite the same thing. I mean, it's using the film really does add a certain element of interest and fun, and which is one of the reasons why I enjoy shooting with it, is because it's it's quite different than than what I ordinarily do day to day. I can't imagine using this on a job, but then that's not really what it's about anyway.